Hello, this is Greg Smalley on Pod 366, a weird movies podcast, joined this week by Giles Edwards.
Hello.
And later in the show, we will be joined by a special guest, director Lee Demarbe, who has most recently directed Enter the Drag Dragon, the drag queen kung fu movie that proudly proclaims itself woke trash, although we'll ask about how woke it is. It's pretty trashy. I'll
Oh,
give it that.
yes, I do, for sure.
And you also might know him from Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter, which is just what it says on the tin. And he's done several other low budget movies in Ottawa, Canada. So that will be later in the show. Also, up front, since I have a feeling I'm going to forget to announce it later, next week we are planning to have another guest, Roger Mitchell, who is the author of Zardoz Speaks to You, a book published about a month ago that is probably the most definitive book on the film Zardoz. Roger Mitchell did a lot of interviews of all the cast, crew, and director. A lot of quotes from Borman himself. Of course, he did not really get much out of Sean Connery, who understandably doesn't want to talk to random authors about the movie where he ran around in a red diaper. So, but that should be next week. If for some reason that doesn't come off, we will reschedule Roger for another week to talk about Zardoz. So all you Zardoz fans will want to tune in then. But let's get to this week's news and new releases, unless Giles has something to say up front.
No, slow going, still getting back in the swing of not covering a film festival. So,
Okay. Well, let's just get into what we have this week. Can you see the screen?
I can.
And can you describe what you see for any viewers who don't have?
Sure. All right, we got a couple doll or action figures, depending upon how you want to look at it. They're flanking a toy horse-looking thing with a horn. So a kind of pastel motifed unicorn is in the middle. On the right-hand side, as we observe, is a clean-cut fella with a short blonde hairstyle. Pretty ripped guy wearing a towel or a skirt or something, some sort of ill-defined ivory-colored garment. And to the left of the unicorn, as we are looking here, is a more rugged-looking action doll figure here with beard and touslable hair and a sort of leather buckskin motif doll-style clothing over a plaid jacket thing. It looks like he's holding a small beer bottle. And in the background is a fairly indistinct crowd of people before we reach the distant, somewhat blurry tree line.
All right. And do you know what this is?
Yeah, with a quick look, I will be able to tell you that this is a picture from the greatest surf movie in the universe.
The greatest surf movie in the universe. I'm not very knowledgeable about surf movies, so I will take them at their word. So what we have here, this is going to be pretty limited release. Excuse me, I'm guessing. It is an Australian movie. It is stop motion animated kind of crudely with these action figures that you can perhaps see. And it has a very crude sense of humor that has clearly been influenced by the South Park guys, Trey Parker
Mhm.
and Matt Stone, and their Team America movie. That style of humor, kind of absurd and very bordering on obscene. If you watch the Not Safe for Work trailer, you will see that the little Pegasus slash unicorn thing because it has both wings and a
Oh, okay.
horn, and it's very pink in color, sort of uh, My Little Pony pink. Um, Features prominently for some reason in the trailer, along with what are either dildos or perhaps actual detached penises. Well, not actual, but
But yeah,
actual.
within the world of the
Yes.
film, they might belong to one or more of the uh, cast figurines.
And the plot is that in the near future, an experimental vaccine has a side effect and that it wipes out all knowledge of surfing among people. And so, um, I don't know, a team of people are gathered by someone to try to restore and reinstate knowledge of surfing. And from what I'm guessing, the people that are in this movie are actual surfers, I think. I could be
And I
wrong. I
suppose
don't know who famous surfers are, but they're people, if you know surfing, you can tell us if Mick Fanning, Craig Anderson, Mason Ho, Griffin Colapinto, Jack Freestone, Matt Wilkinson, and Kelly Slater are actually surfers. Perhaps they are. And
it should.
again, very Australian. It's focused on Australian. So they might be famous Australian surfers unknown to California surfers. I don't know. Anyway, Giles, what do you think of this?
I
What do
say
you think?
sure, why not? I can't imagine this hurt anybody, and certainly didn't divert any funds from another project that this crew would put together. So, at worst, this will be a neutral addition to the world of cinema.
All right. And that's high praise. So at worst, neutral. Um, all right, that's the greatest surfing movie in the world. I do see some of the places it's going to play. You can see it in a lot of California locations, makes sense. A lot of Florida locations maybe make sense. Bigger cities doesn't have a deal with any particular distributor, but it is going to be in several dozen, less than 100 theaters in the United States this week, and then we would assume it would soon appear on VOD and or physical media thereafter. Um, a movie that perhaps will have a little bit wider release, but still not a very wide release. Giles, can you describe
Sure
the
thing.
post?
All right, we've got a very red poster
Very
here
red.
with, I guess sort of charcoaly or painted variants of still photographs. In the foreground is a young fellow with a rather intense look in his eyes, one of them obscured by a shadow mysteriously, with a prominent wreath-like bit of headgear. And behind him is a most of the face side view of an fairly elegant looking woman with heavy eye and lip makeup and curled front part of her hair. These are ever so slightly stylized variations of two very famous actors who were probably somewhere around the peak of their profitability back when this particular movie was made, badly, according to most people, whereas this poster is heralding the release of what will almost certainly be more entertaining and may well actually reflect the original ambitions of the uh, writer of the film, Gore Vidal. Um, this is a I believe this results after scouring hundreds of hours of unused footage.
Yes, this is Caligula advertised as the ultimate cut, and those two famous actors being Malcolm McDowell and Helen Mirren. And for those who don't know the story of Caligula, I'll go over it briefly. In the 70s, Gore Vidal, as Giles pointed out, was hired to write a script about Caligula, the famous decadent Roman emperor, and Tinto Brass, who became afterwards very much known for softcore porn, was hired to direct. At that time, Tinto Brass was sort of an up-and-coming director and not hadn't uh, made his name entirely in porn. I think he was considered a very talented up-and-coming director. At any rate, the entire thing was funded by Bob Guccione of Penthouse magazine, and they got an amazing cast with Malcolm McDowell playing the lead, Helen Mirren, and folks like Peter O'Toole and John
John Gielgud.
Gielgud, yeah, were in it. And all these top name actors thought they were acting in this serious epic about the Roman emperor. And there were some, orgy scenes and scenes of decadence. And they shot a lot of footage. And then Bob Guccione, the editor of Penthouse, decided that the movie wasn't, what was shot wasn't quite, what's the word? Spicy
Penthousey.
enough, obscene enough. And so he brought in some people to shoot some other footage, which contained a lot of actual hardcore pornography and some very gruesome gore and torture scenes, and put it in the film, and then released it that way. And pretty much everyone who was associated with it tried to have their name taken off, including writer Gore Vidal, director Tinto Brass. Unfortunately, the actors couldn't pretend that they were someone else and act under a pseudonym. But that's what happened with Caligula. And the story here is that an editor went back and saw all that unused footage and took out, I guess, most of the most egregious stuff that Guccione put in, recut it as a much more serious movie. Will that mean it's a less weird movie? Perhaps. It might be a more coherent Roman epic, but by all accounts, it's going to be an improvement. I haven't seen the original, though. Giles, did you?
I have seen the yeah,
Oh, the original.
I've seen the theatrical cut, which is X-rated, quite X-rated, and it did give me the impression that depending upon which angle you wanted to approach this movie, there was either something of a serious period drama buried amidst the pornography, or there was a lot of pornography buried amidst a serious period drama. Either way, there was either too much or too little pornography from one side, and somehow manages to be titillating and tedious.
Yeah, I think what makes the movie maybe attractive to weird movie audiences is the idea that it's swinging wildly between those two poles, right?
Yeah.
And so a cleaned up version might not be, even though it's a better movie, might not be as weird a movie. But we shall see. You should still probably check it out. I might check it out. Who knows?
All
I
right. It
don't.
is apparently 3 hours.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay.
Just so you know.
Okay. Well, also somebody should probably cut out all the serious stuff and put out an all pornographic
Well,
version.
see, yeah, my hope is, I mean, yeah, this is the perfect opportunity to just have here's like make your own Caligula. You can just get all the base ingredients, and then various cuts can
Yeah, that's
show.
right. Open up the hundreds of hours of footage to everyone and let everyone make their own Caligula cut. That would be great.
Yeah, it'd be a fun contest for us if we could. Yeah.
Now, speaking of things that are being re-released,
Hmm.
here's one that's being re-released. Giles, can you describe it?
All right, we've got a white base background with what looks like a blue thread stitched web that is opening up as it comes toward the observer, and then toward the back, you can see it getting narrower and narrower and running toward us away from the looming recesses of confinement is, I'm gonna say, a puppet-looking youngish girl, blue-haired, hazel-eyed, black cat in purse, wearing a largely orange pajama-looking outfit, maybe with a sort of outdoor vest thing over it, and is seems fairly distressed. And in the very foreground is an interesting hand-like item that is made up entirely of articulated needles holding the uh, a sewing needle amongst its needle pincers with a red thread, which is only appears in the button, which makes up one of the letters of the movie title.
All right. And that is Coraline, the Harry Selick uh, directed and animated movie from a script by Neil Gaiman from 2009. So this is the 15th anniversary re-release. It's been remastered in 3D. The movie, I'll just read my old plot description for it. A petulant little girl finds a parallel universe behind a hidden door in an old house, a world where her parents are more attentive, her neighbors more fascinating, and the entire universe seems set up to pamper and delight her. She can stay there forever, but of course, there's a catch.
Mm.
So, Giles, have you seen it?
I actually have not.
Oh,
I've
okay.
had every intention of so doing for the past 15 years, but other things have stepped in the way.
Well, now you can catch it in on the big screen in 3D. But it is it's a very good kids movie that's entertaining for adults as well. Neil Gaiman has lots of fans, and it's it's very solidly written story, very beautifully animated story, and not especially weird, but it's one of those movies that's a good one to introduce kids to cinema, the idea that cinema can go a little, movies can go a little further than you might have thought.
Mm-hmm.
They can go further into the imagination, and they can go further into ideas that are perhaps a bit scarier and more perilous than
Mm.
normal, because this, of course, deals with children wanting to replace their parents, and some scary things can result from that desire. So that probably has the widest release of the three movies we've seen, although it still won't be everywhere. There are good chances that this one will appear somewhere near you, and I think it's going to be playing for about a month.
Yeah, looks like through the end of August at least.
Yep.
And oh, it is. Hey, it's playing near me, which means it may well be playing near you.
Yeah. It's probably playing unless you live in a real remote location, this will be playing near you. And our final thing to mention this week is not a theatrical release, but it is our one Blu-ray release that we have to talk about this week. And I have selected a still from the Blu-ray for Giles to describe.
All right. Well, we have a staircase, which is either the exact same one or very similar to a staircase made famous by Joaquin Phoenix some number of years ago. The color scheme is a bit more purple comic book, and dancing down this staircase is a fishnet wearing woman with boots with a hat, jacket in purple, green hair, Harlequin style face makeup, And this, for those who have seen this movie, this is just before there's a little snafu for the character on screen that forces them to quickly run away from a threat mid-dance move. So, uh,
Well, this, of course, is the People's Joker, which I have not seen, but Giles has. And so I'm going to allow Giles to do a quick introduction to the film for those.
sure thing. I will take a car. I'll take some notes from what you just pulled here. We got the plot. While on the pathway to becoming an anti-comedian extraordinaire, the People's Joker, character mind you, confronts her troubled past and her chaotic present to attain self-acceptance and dethrone the domineering normies plaguing Gotham City. This is a fun little movie. This is an impactful movie for a subculture that is very rarely catered to. The various queer and trans individuals I have observed from following the filmmaker's social media handle has impacted a lot of lives very positively. This is another great example of, oh, here's what you can do when you have a whole lot of enthusiastic individuals and effectively no money to spend, aided in no small part, but in a very unlikely way, by a threat of a lawsuit after its very first screening, I think back in 2019, even sometime a number of years ago now. That was the Barbra Streisand effect kind of thing on the DC Comics people who helped reinforce fair use doctrine through their shenanigans, and so has allowed this movie to come out not only on Blu-ray but VHS with that copy personally hand and scanned by the writer-director star Vera Drew. So
Okay.
lots of nostalgia thrown in here amongst the, shall we say, forward thinking. And it's yes, delightful little picture.
And I, back in, we're going to say 2019 when it came out, it was screened once and I predicted it would never be screened again. And boy, was I proven wrong because Vera Drew soldiered through and DC caved. And here it is. They decided it was better to just sort of like Disney did with Escape from Tomorrow, which is decided it's better to ignore it than to fight it and make it a cause célèbre, considering that it has such a niche appeal. Um, Let me read off some of the special features of the Blu-ray
Mm.
from Altered Innocence, who puts out some good stuff. And as usual, Altered Innocence stuff is usually both queer and surreal, not one or the other. They usually have both together, which is an unusual combination, but one we appreciate. It's going to have three commentary tracks, one with the director and actor Nathan Foston. I'm going to say one commentary track with assorted cast and crew, a separate discussion with the director, and a couple of film studies types, some behind the scenes work, a 24-page comic book, trailers, and something that Giles may know what it is. I have no idea. It's called Weebso TV.
Yeah, I was just punching that into an internet search here.
I thought maybe it was something from the film that they
I know it possibly it's been a while. Here, I think I've managed to. Let's see if I can. Here we go. All right, so it looks like there is a pilot episode to a television thing called Suicide Cop. Short film. Okay, it's some short films that include characters that ended up in the People's Joker, and so it is a very niche sort of origin source material bit, about 35 minutes total.
Okay, and that's the People's Joker. I think probably most people who would be interested in the People's Joker know about it already. I don't think it's going to come as a surprise to anybody, but perhaps it will. And if you're in that group who this is your first time hearing about it, it's the People's Joker. Um, so Giles, what do you say? Let's just quit right now and go call up Lee Demarbe for a discussion of Enter the Drag Dragon, which would be a good film to screen on a double bill with
Yeah, yeah.
Joker.
As I said, we continue down this path, we might lose our Puritan audience, Greg.
Yes,
Oh,
we're embracing the woke trash way too much. So,
sounds good to me. Yeah, let's get Lee on the horn.
although Caligula is not really woke trash, so we have that.
No, Caligula is very much its own thing.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to stop this recording. We will be back in instantaneously with Lee Demarbe to discuss Enter the Drag Dragon. See you soon. Hello, and I'm back, joined again by Giles Edwards and our special guest, Lee Demarbe, the director of the newest movie is Enter the Drag Dragon. You might also know him from Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter. Hello, Mr. Demarbe.
Hello, how are you?
We are doing just fine, and we're really happy to find you here. I should also mention, not only are you a director, you're also associated with a repertory theater there in Ottawa, the Mayfair Theater.
Yes, so far. Well, if cinema continues to exist, yes, that we're doing actually well right now. We're a single screen theater in the nation's capital, the Mayfair Theater, and single screen theaters are the future, I think, of the cinema business. Multiplexes, I don't know how they can have 20 screens going. There's not 20 good movies to be showing right now that are not already on, pay-per-view or whatever it's called, on demand. Pay-per-view, I don't think pay-per-view is a thing anymore.
I haven't heard that phrase in a while now.
I used to work at a video store, and I was talking all morning about the video store with someone, and I think pay-per-view came stuck in my head from that conversation. But it feels like that. I feel like sometimes when I turn my TV on and they're advertising a new movie that's on demand, I feel like I'm in like on an airplane and I'm watching something that's not on video yet.
Or better yet, at an old bus station, and you're feeding
Yeah.
quarters into the TV where you're
Oh, I miss that. I miss those days. I love those. I wish I had one of those at home.
Now, due to your association with the theater, you get to actually screen your films yourself on the big screen.
Yes.
But when you started making low budget movies, since we're kind of got off on a tangent, I mean, I saw Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter on DVD, and I suspect that was the main avenue of distribution back for these level of movies back when you started.
Well, actually, though, we shot Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter on 16 millimeter, and I finished to 16 millimeter. And when I went to the Cannes Film Festival to screen the movie, we showed our film at the Palais Cinema, not most of the filmmakers I knew who traveled to Cannes, low budget indie filmmakers, showed their movies on VHS in a hotel room on a VCR. But because we had a print, we could screen on the big screen. So I did my best to have it run theatrically for over a year. And when we screened at the Mayfair, we had our Ottawa premiere at the Bytown Cinema in Ottawa, which is another single screen theater, a beautiful single screen theater here in Ottawa. And then a week later, we played at the Mayfair. This is before I had involvement at the Mayfair. And so, yeah, it's funny, I spent about $40,000 finishing at the film, with the sound mix to optical and getting a neg cut finished. And then I spent about $200 to transfer it to VHS a week later because that's all the money I had left over. And that's what the world saw. The world saw a shitty $200 VHS transfer from 16 millimeter. And then the DVD was that transfer. So it wasn't until recently that a music video distribution company they scanned the print again, but they cut off the top and the bottom because it's 16 millimeters. So
Oh gosh, yeah.
they cut off the top and the bottom. So I did get a new rescan done with the National Archives of Canada, but I haven't been able to release it yet.
Oh, well, that's kind of exciting. Maybe that'll be something in the future we can.
Yeah, I think the world has yet to see a good version of this shitty movie, like a good scan of this piece of
Oh
crap.
well, it's I'm personally going to wait for the Steelbook 8K.
Oh man, that's
8K.
a dream. 8K. I don't know if I don't. Oh, hello.
Yeah,
Oh,
well, I'm
What
getting the
happened?
next
Oh, very good. I don't know if 16 millimeter can even do 4K. Actually, what did I just see released on 4K? George Romero's Martin, and that was shot on 16 millimeter. So maybe they can do 4Ks of 16 millimeter prints. They can do 2Ks, but I'd like to see a 4K. Anyway, that's a cool looking poster. That's an old poster for Into the Drag Dragon.
right. And this, I brought this up. This is the first time we heard of this movie. I'm not sure. I probably saw it just like listed on Rotten Tomatoes or something.
Yeah.
And this poster, I think, was really well done because it definitely drew us in. And I didn't realize at the time it was done by the same guy that had done Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter. But I thought the poster was really well done. And one of the things Giles and I focused on was this quote up in the right-hand corner where you chose. I always love it when somebody will take a negative review and post it on the poster as a selling point, where a random Facebook user called it woke trash.
That made me so happy because, obviously he had not seen the film and he wrote that. It made me laugh. I'm like, okay, I know how to. I'm not even going to reply to him. I'm just going to put that on the poster. With Jesus Christ Vampire, I was hoping for, a little bit of bad publicity to get the name of the film out there. And with Drag Dragon, I thought, oh, maybe there's enough people who are going to just label, ignorant people are going to just label this woke that maybe we will get some traction. And
and its agenda is sort of on its sleeve there, even in just the title. So yes, I bothered for whatever reason to ponder what would prompt someone with that title in mind to even watch it. But I suspect your theory is the correct one here.
thank you. I didn't originally entered the Drag Dragon was gonna be a kids. It's gonna be a movie featuring all kids. It was the original title was Skinny Tiger, Fatty Dragon, and we were going to cast all kids in the role. Wasn't necessarily a kids movie, but it was going to be, all the villains are going to be kids, all the heroes are going to be kids, and I couldn't get anyone in Ottawa interested in being a part of the film. They just like, why do you want to make a kids movie? And I said, no, I don't want to make a kids movie. I want to make a movie that's cool, like like Bad News Bears. It's not necessarily for kids, but it's badass, and no one bit. No one. I didn't have a good title. I didn't have a good premise. And then I went to see Rocky Horror Picture Show, and we showed it at the Mayfair Theater. And the cast is so great. I thought, well, hold on a second, it should be a drag queen movie. And I came with the title first, and we changed the whole movie to make it a drag foo epic. So the title, when you're making a no budget movie, you need a good title to catch people's eye. I really like Sammo Hung as a filmmaker. Jackie Chan's older brother, and he made a film called Enter the Fat Dragon, which was a parody of the Bruce Lee movie. And I always thought that was a great title, and that's part of the inspiration. Donnie Yen just remade it recently. Anywho, yeah, I'm glad you noticed that about the poster.
And the other thing I wanted to point out that we noticed, I like the little in joke there at the bottom that it's rated X by an all straight jury, which I'm not sure how many people will get, but
Yeah,
if you do get it, they say the right people will get it.
exactly. I
that
love I love Melvin Van Peebles movie. Um, a sweet Sweetback's badass song, and I always love that part of this poster. And that's where that comes from. And on his poster it says rated X by an all white jury, and I thought that was such a badass thing to have on your poster. And sticking it to the breeders comes from, that's another movie poster reference. I had a poster up in I have a lot of posters that you can see in my house. And one of them said, sticking it to the man
Yeah.
in the year it came out. What movie is that? Sticking it to the man. Anyway, I think it's a Fred Williamson movie. I think it's Hammer.
I wouldn't be
Um,
surprised if they use that line multiple times.
yeah. And all my gay friends, I love when they put straight people down by calling breeders. It makes me laugh. So I got to use breeders on the poster.
Hey, Giles, I'll let you ask a question since I asked.
Okay, yeah. Well, you've spoken a little bit about the background for this. One thing that, among the many things I noticed in the film, there are a whole lot of people involved in the production on screen, and I was kind of curious since this is obviously, not a Hollywood blockbuster epic with Hollywood blockbuster epic money. How'd you go about corralling just like dozens and dozens of both, background artist types and, the various leads and goons and so on.
It's so fun to look at these photos because I love all these people. I think the answer to that, when you make a no budget movie, you want to try your best to make it look like there's zero budget. We had no producer involvement, no investor involvement. I didn't get government grants to make this movie. We just sort of, I spent my own money making it. All the actors volunteered, all the crew volunteered, from top to bottom. We shot it. We shot it. We did a table read uh, the day I found out my mother was dying. Actually, I was at the table starting the table read, and I got a call from Newfoundland that my mother had was dying of cancer and didn't have long to live. And shortly after the table read, that went really well. I had to tell everyone I have to slow down making this movie because I have to deal with this with my family. Then my mother got used to dealing with cancer. We got used to going to the hospital and putting in her platelets and I said to her, you think I could shoot on the weekends? And she allowed me to leave the hospital, which I love being with my mother at the hospital. I had a great time, but it was nice to get out too and escape and make the film. So in a way, the film was therapeutic that way. And then as when my mother passed away, and I had a very pleasant time with my mother before she passed, uh, COVID started.
Mm.
So we were just about to start going again with the movie, and that happened. So it took 4 years to make the movie, and I'm really very happy with that everyone who started with me making this movie was there at the end after 4 years. And because it took us so long, I was able to involve more people. And going back to what I said at the beginning, when you're making a no budget movie, you want to do your best to make it look like you have a little bit of a budget. And I think doing the outdoor locations helps that and
Mm.
having a big cast. So, and the best part about having a big cast is all those people will be at the premiere with 10 of their friends, and all those people will spend 4 years promoting your movie. And the best people to have involved in your movie are bartenders because they'll serve drinks for 4 years and tell everyone about this film. So looking at this picture you have up here right now, uh, three of those people are bartenders, and three of them are bar flies. So having a lot of people involved helps you get the word out about your movie very, very easily. Also, I like the idea of keeping a no budget movie looking like it has a bit of a budget.
Now, so I guess since we're talking about cast, we need to ask this question because it's sort of a mystery. Why are there three leads in this movie?
It's funny. When I was cutting the movie, after we made the decision to do each act of the movie has a different actor playing the lead role. And when I was cutting the movie, it blended so well, I stopped thinking about it having three characters. And it wasn't until the premiere, sorry, three different actors, wasn't the premiere, I was like, wait a minute. Well, what are people going to think? No, that's right. I forgot. There's three different actors playing the lead. It just got, I love all these guys equally. I think they're all great in the role, and it just for me was just what it was. To go back to what the initial decision making was, it had to do with my mother's passing. Sam, who's in the glasses here, who plays first act Crunch. I call him first act Crunch because he plays act Crunch throughout the first act. Jade in the middle is second act crunch, and Matt Miwa on the right is third act crunch. But it was Sam was the star of the film. He does performs Rocky Horror Picture Show at the Mayfair Theater, and probably knew him the best and felt comfortable with him in the lead role and loved the guy, and he was great as Crunch. But when my mother was in the hospital, I needed to get out and shoot as much as I could whenever my mother allowed it. Um, and whenever her doctors allowed it, to be more frank. Um, and Sam got a job and wasn't always available when I needed to be available. And I asked Sam the permission, like, would you mind if I cast two other actors to play Crunch? Because that'll allow me, if Sam's not available, I can shoot with Jade. If Jade and Sam are not available, I can shoot with Matt. And it almost allowed me to shoot all the film all the time whenever I was free. And it was nice. It was very gracious, I thought, of Sam to allow that character to be divided between these three actors. And and it also became fun that way. And it would be fun to figure a way to transition between the three crunches. So I don't know. It was a decision that was made for my peace of mind. That's the best way I can put it.
Hmm. So I was kind of imagining that you had these open casting calls where you tried to get drag queens who could act, but apparently it was people you already knew.
I knew Matt very well and Sam very well. Jade was new to me. Jade came recommended by the guy who did the poster. Peter Maher works with Jade. Jade does a lot of work on movie sets, does a lot of makeup and hair, and has her own studio at home. And Jade was someone I got to know making the movie, which was very, very nice because Jade's very funny. And there's nothing more warm than making friends with someone new who can make you laugh. And so go back. What was it you said? You said you thought it was. Oh, so you know what this allowed? So when Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter came out, a lot of the criticism the movie had was that people were disappointed with the portrayal of Jesus. That he's only looks like Jesus for the first 15 minutes of the movie. Then he gets a haircut and a shave and gets new clothes. And I felt it would have been hard to placate and make everyone happy with Jesus the way it was. But with Enter the Dragon, I thought, well, if I switch up the actors, then I can have three different actors who are completely different, and they could be. It's almost like it almost creates like a drag show. It almost becomes a fashion show, but you have three different styles of drag. Sam always thought his portrayal of Crunch was more like just like Rocky Horror, like a street ghetto drag queen. Jade is a real drag queen, so she came to set she's a award-winning drag queen and is known across the country. So, there wasn't a lot of work. She just wasn't a lot of work for me to convince her to be a drag queen. Matt did drag, but only at home when no one was looking. And when Matt came to set, the day before he came to set, he said to me, "How big should my boobs be?" And I'm like, I never even thought of that question. That's a good. Go full tilt boogie there, Matt Miwa. So it was fun having three different people taking three different ways of approaching the Crunch character.
Okay, Giles.
Oh, I mean, we're on a roll with cast here. So there are two VIPs on the listed on the poster. One of them featured prominently, and I can't say I recall where Sestro showed up, but I firmly believe you. I guess might be fun to hear how you roped in those luminaries of alternate cinema.
Well, I've known Lloyd Kaufman a long time. The first time I went to the Cannes Film Festival in 2000, I was there with my film Harry Knuckles and the Treasure of the Aztec Mummy, which Troma bought and was going to distribute on home video. And they invited me to Cannes along with the Slam Dance Film Festival. And I got to know Lloyd. I don't know if you've ever seen that documentary, All the Love You Can, featuring the late, great Doug Sackman and Lloyd Kaufman promoting their movies at the Cannes Film Festival. It's wonderful. I was there for all of that. I was behind the camera the whole time. And it was I learned more from watching Doug Sackman and Lloyd Kaufman pimp movies at Cannes for 2 weeks than I did 4 years of film studies in Ottawa. So every time I have a movie, I think about Lloyd. Lloyd wants to come to Ottawa and make movies with me all the time, which is really nice. And with the Mayfair, I can invite Lloyd we can show his movies and on the weekends shoot a little scene and then he goes back to New York. And we've done that now twice. He's in Harry Knuckles and the Pearl Necklace, and he's in this film. But every few years I see Lloyd, and I love him to death. He is Uncle Lloyd to my kids. And Greg Sestero has come to Ottawa quite often with The Room. Tommy used to come to Ottawa. Tommy doesn't come to Canada anymore because he's afraid he's going to get beat up by us mean-spirited Canadians. But I see Greg often. He's coming again in November. And one time he was here, I said he was the first scene we shot in the whole movie before we shot anything was with Greg. He plays the young pirate in the flashback sequence.
Oh,
My flashback sequence. So we drove an hour and a half to a museum where they had a pirate ship, and they allowed the shoot in the museum. And I shot just with a few hours with Greg. Now we're involving Greg and Tommy Wiseau in the next film. Tommy Wiseau, I'm hoping I've got a part for Tommy that's going to be the greatest role of his life. Anywho, so
that is saying something.
interesting. Lloyd was incredible on this film because the day we shot with him, we shot for one day. His mother passed away that the night before. So every time I said cut, he had to get on the phone to deal with the hospital and while he was in Ottawa. And then action, he'd be right in the role. It was really something to see him in and out of the character and being a professional. And I love him for that. We both lost our mother making this movie. Anyway, and Phil Caracas is in the movie, who played Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter. He plays Buck, who owns the cinema. So I don't know if anyone knows that's Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter without his beard and mustache and wig.
Though with a different wig.
Yes, with a
Nice.
different. That's right. I bought him a toupee. I thought I couldn't get. Phil didn't get into the role till I bought him that toupee. That's what probably one of the biggest expense on the movie is that when you buy a toupee, you have to set up an appointment. And we had this appointment, and a lot of the cast came, and he was fitted for a toupee. And I said, I don't want it to look that good. I kind of want it to look like, oh, he's wearing a toupee. So the woman who built the toupee had a really fun time dumbing down the process of making it look so slick. And Phil still has the toupee, and I hope he gets to use it from time to time.
As we're discussing all the cast, I didn't want to leave anybody. We couldn't discuss everybody. I mean, there's a gang of villains that each have their own characters, but I did think it's important to mention Beatrice Beres, because
Yes.
in some ways, she is like the lead in the film. She probably has more scenes and more lines than anyone, and she's sort of as straight, hot cis woman. She's almost like the focus of normality amongst all this weirdness and the other characters.
She's gonna love hearing you say that. She is in a way the star of the film because she is in all three acts. Buck is in all three acts, but he's not in as much as Beatrice. Beatrice was probably just about the most committed person to the movie in the fact that she's in every act of the movie quite a bit, and she was often on set when she wasn't being filmed. So she would often come hang out and be behind the camera and just watch and get to know everyone, which is really infectious. When everyone's volunteering, I sometimes feel awful that I'm taking up so much of their day. But I'd like to think in the back of my mind or back of their mind that they're having fun being a part of a movie. And when to see someone like Beatrice on set when she's not filming is it's gas in the tank. It really is inspiring for not only me, hopefully the other actors to say, this is fun. It's so much fun to be a part of this movie. I don't need to be paid, and I'll be there. I'll do whatever you want. It's kind of a punk rock thing for her to do. And because she was so keen, she got to be in the movie more. When I originally met Beatrice, was one of those people I'd never knew before making this movie. I saw her drinking at a bar. She was on a date, and I kept looking at her. It was kind of, and I said to my friends, I'd love to ask that woman to be in the movie. And I went up to her and I said, look, I'm married. I hope I don't sound like a creep, but I'm making a drag queen movie, and if you're all interested, please email me. And I gave her my email address, and we met the next day, and I had this one small role for her in the movie. She was going to play the adventurer at the beginning, and she dies. She was going to be in that one scene, but spending a lot of time with her, I gave her a bigger role, and her enthusiasm on the movie is why she's in the movie so much. You know what I mean? It's like when you're working with, I always tell actors, you don't have to be, you don't, it's not just being great in front of the camera, it's being great off camera too. It's being great between scenes when you're not shooting, being supportive. And Beatrice gets an Oscar for that. Um, and everyone does. Everyone was great. Everyone was like that. I can't think of anyone who I really hated. I never, I always loved having people on set and seeing them off set between shots, seeing them now. I sometimes wish I was still filming because I'm friends with all these people still. And it's just infectious to be around people who love it so much, who are involved.
Thank you, Giles.
Yeah, the soundtrack sticks out, and I know there was a credit for the score, with also a whole bunch of different songs littered throughout, including featured prominently, of course, the "Putting on My Bitch Boots" or whatever the actual title for that was. And I know that songwrites can be a devil for anyone making a movie, and I guess I'm curious how you maybe set up the score and got, you know. Rights kinds of things going for you there for the perfect sound to go with your imagery.
I thanks for asking. I love the soundtrack for this movie. And and like Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter and like Harry Knuckles and the Pearl Necklace and like Smash Cut, the soundtrack's the best part of the movie. Like the people who we involve, the musicians from Ottawa who get involved with the soundtrack for all my movies, for those for five, no, how many movies I've made? Eight. For six of the movies I've made, feature films, I mean, I'm really impressed with the scores because the local musicians in Ottawa are top notch, and I'm so thrilled to have them involved. Again, it's going to bars and meeting people and getting people excited about your drag queen movie. And so all the music is from Ottawa, and all the music was given to the film. So the Hammerheads who did a lot of music for Jesus Christ Vampire, Hammerheads did this in Harry Knuckles and the Pearl Necklace, the song Slush Panties. And in Harry Knuckles, in Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter, everyone gets laid tonight. That group was the Hammerheads, and they did Bitch Boots. And Dave Bignell from the Hammerheads, I just asked him for some action music, and he did a lot of the action, the big sounding James Bond sort of type action music. And then John Carroll, who's an incredible musician from Ottawa, came in and see what I did. When I cut the movie, I put temp music in, so I had all this music in from other movies to try to find the fun sound for the movie. And then so when I said the John, it was kind of easy because I ended up in the posters. I don't know if you know this Irving Lerner right here. There's a poster for, is that it? Yeah, Murder by Contract. Murder by Contract. It's one of Martin Scorsese's favorite films. It's directed by Irving Lerner. It's about an assassin, and the music is incredible, and it's really simple, and it's a lot of the same themes over and over again. And so I said to John Carroll, it just needs to sound like that movie. So what he did is he developed a theme song for Buck, Jaws, and Crunch, and for the villains, and keep reusing those themes, and built this magnificent score that I think when you leave the theater, in your head, the way that a lot of great scores work. And then there's Dave Bignell with his big action music, and then Bitch Boots is incredible. And yeah, I'm very fortunate to know the right kind of musicians in Ottawa. And like I said, for six of my movies, I just love the music. There's just two movies I made in there that were made for Lifetime that I had no involvement in post-production. But Harry Knuckles, Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter, Smash Cut, the two movies I made in Mexico, and this film, my God, the music's great. I just hope the rest of the movie is as good as the music.
So, I guess in general, I do want to get this before we've run out of time. I'm curious, I suppose, about the tone of your movies that you're going for. And we touched on this a little before when you said the titles and the premises can be fairly outrageous and provocative. Like Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter sounds like you're trying to stick it to the evangelicals, Drag Dragon, sticking it to the homophobes. When you actually watch the movies, however, it seems to me they're much more lighthearted and just kind of fun comedies. A little bit crass, but not obscene, you know.
I'm sure he's heard worse than that, Greg.
Yeah, but it's not like a sort of a John Waters thing where you're going really hard at being mean-spirited towards people. So am I right in sort of ferreting out that that's the tone you're looking for?
Yeah, I think there's a fun wholesomeness to movies, a movie like this. You make me think about, my wife lives with me, and for 4 years I was making this movie, and I didn't show her any footage, but I had a lot of dicks in the trunk of my car because the kind of movie we were making. I was spending a lot of money on dildos, building the cock chucks,
Yep.
and there's dildos throughout the whole movie, and there's fake tits, and so I always thought if I get into a car accident and the police and the car rolls, there's gonna be dicks everywhere. So my wife was kind of really worried about what this movie, the kids wouldn't be able to watch it. But for a movie with a lot of dildos, it's awfully wholesome. And
Yeah.
I think that's part of the charm. It's you know what? It's not, it's about, a drag queen, and it's got all these dicks, but there's nothing sexual about the movie. And it's not, and I wasn't really going for that, but at the same time, uh, you know, there's not a lot of swearing in the movie. And I'm not trying to make a G-rated movie. I'm just trying to make something fun. And there were so many kids involved with the movie. You know what happened while I was making the movie is I got a dog. And over the pandemic, I walk my dog 3 times a day, and I've met a lot of new friends, and a lot of those friends are kids, and I met their parents, and so that's why all the zombies are children,
Mm.
because I met them walking the dog, and so when it came time to release the movie, and the kids were like, "Can we come see it?" Their parents said, "No, you can't go see that movie. You've seen the trailer." But I'm like, you know what? I think they can come see the movie. I mean, there's cock chucks in the movie, but it's not like, it's not sexualized, it's not sexual violence. I don't like guns that much too either in movies, not because I'm a prude, just because, my favorite when it comes to action movies, I like kung fu better than gun fu. So I don't know, there's a lot of, I guess there isn't a lot of meanness in the film, and I think that's sort of the message. That was a message for Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter in this, that it's like a wholesome take, a little bit of wholesome take. It's like a wholesome John Waters movie, because
Yeah.
and I hope that doesn't sound like a turnoff, because maybe it is, because I think some people. I mean, okay, so I surround my whole house and my cinema is surrounded by my movie posters. I'm looking at movies posters all the time. And these are some film noir movies. And there's like Marilyn Monroe right here, and Barbara Stanwyck, and Robert Ryan, and Ida Lupino. And those are movie stars. But then you got a film noir here with no movie stars, and you have a film noir here with movie stars. And when you don't have a movie star, when you don't have that kind of draw, you have to have a good title, and you have to put stuff on your poster that make people want to go see it. When you have, it's like, I think of the poster for Face Off. When you have John Travolta and you have Nick Cage, that's all you need on your poster. And you have the most boring poster for the most exciting movie ever made. But when you have no budget, that's what I love about exploitation movies, like the films of Larry Cohen and John Waters and Herschel Gordon Lewis and Russ Meyer. They always had the best posters because they really needed to draw you, and they had the best titles that they wanted you to remember. And that's my inspiration. That's why Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter came with the title came first. Ian Driscoll and I were in a car ride. He said Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter. I said, that sounds like a good movie, and we made it. Enter the Dragon came just before we were filming it, because I turned it into the kind of movie it is, instead of being the kids movie we were going to make. So I like thinking about these things, and I like hearing your take on it. Yeah. there's a lot of cock in this movie, but I'd show my mom.
It is surprising to say. I mean, the dildos, if you just removed the dildos somehow and a little bit of gore, it would really be like a Disney film almost.
We had to do a little bit of cock removal from the trailer. There was one, I forget where we were. I think it was Amazon. Someone said to us, you have, because the trailer says a basket full of dicks.
Yeah.
And I had to change that for one of the trailers, but the movie itself remained intact. I don't think there's anything I censored. There's a lot of blood and there is a lot of blood and gore. Now, I like Herschel Gordon Lewis movies a lot. And I went to a butcher shop and I spent a lot of money on intestines and livers and hearts. And the eyeball that comes out of the eye,
Uh-huh.
that's a pig's eye that we put
Oh.
into a real doll head.
Mm.
That's the same gore the shot we did in Smash Cut. I put a pig eye, not a pig eye, a sheep's eye inside of a real doll. A real doll is a sex doll, a really expensive one. I
Mm.
just have the head because I love gags like that. And we did it better in this film than we did Smash Cut because it looks like a real eye coming in. Anyway, but a lot of CGI blood and I don't know, inventiveness, I guess. And I like to make movies for the audience, but me too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, Giles.
Yes. Oh,
Oh,
me.
anything you want to know?
Well, let me just
Seeing your suspenders makes me think of Beatrice because I wanted Jaws to wear suspenders for a few scenes in the movie, and I bought her these really nice suspenders that she never got the wear in the movies. And I'm looking at your suspenders like, damn,
oh.
missed opportunity. Suspenders on a woman I find is really, really fetching.
Well, I mean, she does survive the film, so to speak. So, it's
Yes,
obviously as a detective agency associated with an independent theater, there's room for further adventures with this trio of
yeah,
do-gooding crime fighting types there that you set up there.
100%.
So, groundwork for a franchise, right? And everyone loves a franchise.
Yes, yes. We need one. We need a drag foo franchise.
Oh, if only to annoy the squares. And I
And
generally like to be
readers.
nice to people, but certain types, they can.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I know what you mean.
Can you tell us anything about your next project yet?
yeah.
Well, we are working on a Dicto script. We're in the
Oh, that's
works.
right. I stayed through the credits and saw, that promise you laid down.
Yeah, Elliot, who plays Dictos in the movie, is a bartender, and I was looking for some villains for the movie, and I came up with 5 villains, and I got names, and I cast them. And he said to me, "Oh, what about Dictos? He'd be a good villain." I'm like, and I was so mad at him. It's like, where were you 2 weeks ago? If you said to me 2 weeks ago, Dictos would be in the movie, he'd be one of the henchmen. And so I kept thinking about Dictos. I kept thinking of this great idea for a character. So we squeezed him into the movie in 2 scenes. And now we've got I'm pretty happy with the script so far, and we might start shooting next spring, my ninth feature film, which would be a Dictos
Mm.
feature film, which is sort of Dick Toes. He's a private investigator with 10 dicks for toes, and it is sort of like a film noir, uh, outrageous film noir about a yeah outrageous detective, and he's also a wrestler. So during the day he wrestles, at night he's a detective. So he's a masked wrestler with 10 dicks for toes, and it's a crazy idea. But it exists in the same universe as Enter the Dragon and Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter and Smash Cut. So there is a lot of world building going on.
Giles, final question. Do you want to?
Well, there's one question we like to wrap up every interview with our guest. What's your hometown, and can you recommend a restaurant there?
I live in Ottawa, the nation's capital, Canada's capital city. And I really I'm kind of picky, but I like the works. I like Chez Lucien. Chez Lucien, where I spent a lot of we did a post party at Chez Lucien, post production party, and they have great hamburgers and great liver and onions. And yeah, maybe I'd recommend Chez Lucien over anything else. Uh yeah.
I was expecting a bar because that's where
Oh,
you do all
well,
your
Shayla
casting.
a bar. Shayla a bar where we go drinking, and where
Yeah.
like Greg Sestero and Tommy Wiseau and Lloyd Kaufman and everyone involved with the movie. We always end up at Shay talking a lot of the great ideas. Elliot, who plays Dick Toes, is a bartender. Natalia, who plays Gorch, is a bartender at Chez Lucien. Actually, most of the people, most of the bar staff at Chez Lucien are in the movie, jumping out of airplanes or getting kicked in the face.
As
All
you
right.
do.
That's great. And we are just about out of time. So I'd like to thank Macabre Lee Demarbe. That didn't work. But anyway, thank you for being on, and we'll be on next week. Bye,
I
guys.
appreciate it. Thank you very much.